This is our very special 8th annual Girl Power Hour. This is all in support of the Lionheart Foundation. First of all, the focus every year for the Girls Power Hour is for anxiety-based mental health challenges in young people. And I feel so much better knowing that Lionheart is here and the people who are there running it is here to help me if I get into any kind of challenges with my kids when it comes to anxiety. We love these young people and we want to give them the best chance they can. COVID has changed everything, including the stress levels of young people. So if you have adolescents who are already feeling anxious, for some of them, it got a whole lot worse. And Lionheart is there to help. So we're going to talk about how this pandemic has affected maybe kids you know or kids you love, and how you can help them. We have two great psychologists I'm going to sit down with a little bit later on who are part of Lionheart, and I'm going to say, what are you seeing? What can I do as a parent? How can I help? What are some signs? Is it going to be okay? And they're going to tell you all that you need to know about that whole world. That is why we're here. There are kids out there, young people who are losing their way, and there are parents out there who are losing their minds, not knowing what to do and feeling alone and frightened. If that's you, you aren't alone. If you are afraid, it's okay. I would call Lionheart because they can help you out. Two special people, Tasha and Danelle, are going to join us now. These are two Lionheart folks who are psychologists who are going to get in there, and they're the ones in the front lines, and I'm going to sit down with them and talk a bit about what they do, what they're seeing, and how you can be part of it if you want to help.
So I've been working in the trenches of youth mental health full-time for the last 7 months, and I've never sat across from so much sadness in my entire career. I've seen so much intuitive healing. It's quite impressive. I've seen connection despite social distancing. I've seen passions get exploded and explored, and family time where people get to settle and really get to know each other, get to really know their friends, their values, and what it's like to just be in their own skin. This is not a time where we want to be on autopilot. We all have to do something to step up so that the youth of today turn in the youth into the youth of tomorrow that have hope and promise for their future.
When I was asked to prepare 5 minutes of content here, I kept coming back to one thing: how significantly important your role is as a parent right now. And when I say that, I know you're thinking, oh, great, that's so much pressure. What if I say or do the wrong thing? And I recognize that. But I also know that you as parents have the most powerful neurocircuitry and innate capacity to influence your child's well-being in a very positive way. Now, it's definitely okay to talk about COVID. However, you need to ensure that you are mindful of the content of your conversations, the frequency you're having them, and perhaps the news stories that are going on in the background. Kids make sense of things so much differently than us as adults with fully developed brains. They can't attach the same logic, reason, or critical thinking that we can. What they'll do instead is overthink about it, they'll feel anxious about it, or they'll internalize it as fear or worry. Try not to let your anxiety plant seeds of anxiety onto your child. If they see that you are stressed out, then there must be something to be stressed out about. You can acknowledge, absolutely, that you're unsure, you're scared yourself, but that you're absolutely capable of taking care of them and their feelings. So let's use this time to see our kids, emotionally connect with them, be curious about their worlds. This can be an amazing opportunity to do so. Sometimes it's not what you do as a parent, but who you are to them. So be that person they come to when they need someone to talk with. Be as present and available as you can. Turn off your technology. Try to spend more quality time with them. I know it's a challenge right now with people working from home and trying to find that good work-life balance. And perhaps there are new financial or career concerns as well. So I get how hard that can be. However, your kids are more likely to come to you with a concern if they see you are present and available, and if they see you're not overly stressed out yourselves. Yes, children's emotional well-being will be impacted and influenced by this pandemic, but family can even be a more powerful influence. So work on ensuring you take the time for your well-being so your kids don't feel they have to take care of you, and you can continue to take good care of them.
Thank you both very much. How does Lionheart play into, for those that are wondering, a counseling session? What happens?
For sure. So Lionheart is it's a charitable organization that can actually step up to subsidize a family where getting really good counseling for their child or adolescent is tough to afford. So
they'll help them out.
they will help them out.
You talked a bit about the state of COVID and does it make things worse? Can you talk, and I'll pick on you a bit first or after, but tell us a bit about what's the state of kids in general?
I think it's a mixed bag. I don't know anyone that hasn't been impacted on some level by the pandemic. Our world has really been turned upside down. And I think young people that were possibly already struggling, it's helped to magnify some of the symptoms that are already there. And for people that maybe thought that their mental health bumps were in the past, is kind of woken up some of that, those old patterns and behaviors have kind of come back to the forefront. So a lot of people that I would have probably thought I will never see them in a counseling setting again have reached out to say, I'm not doing very well, I need to come back.
How has it been in your world?
Well, my practice is relatively new. I've just reinstated my practice. I guess that's maybe not the word, but I'm shocked by the amount of calls I'm getting. I would say 2 or 3 emails every other day. And, you know, it's just, I find that like when I'm receiving those emails or those calls, I'm like, I can't right now, but maybe in a couple months, and then I get a couple more. And then when I reach out to my colleagues, they're also feeling that. Yeah, so it's alarming.
And do you see that, like even the virus itself, where there are these waves, do you see it waving, like is it gonna grow in your, as much as you can? Because I mean, some of these things will take a while to set in.
You mean the mental health waves that we're seeing?
Well, will it follow the actual health waves? So for example, are there people now out there who aren't actually exhibiting signs, but in 6 months or whatever, 2 months, they will? Do you think that's possible?
I think that we have not even seen the truth of that kind of shadow of what's happening with the mental health because of the pandemic.
Really?
So most young people, they've had to get used to not going to their sports in the same way. Graduations haven't been the same. What it's going to be like when you go off to university is very unknown, or you're doing it online. So like it's such a different landscape. And so people are getting by, they're making the best of things.
Yeah.
But what's showing up at counseling offices, doctors' offices, the hospital is a lot of people that are really wobbly and not doing well. And it's not because of COVID in particular, it's the uncertainty and the unknown that goes along with what COVID has presented us all with.
And are there, I mean, you did talk about it, are there silver linings? Is it, you both talked about it, is there at least, as a parent, can I go, well, okay, tough things, but is there silver linings in this?
Absolutely. And I think we have to actually make ourselves look at a lot of the silver linings and talk about them each day to remind ourselves, no, there's good in our life. I think probably one of the most exciting silver linings that I've experienced is just how innately resourceful people are, where, you know, everyone's getting out and saying hi to their neighbors and whatever, making their cinnamon buns and learning to knit and taking up poetry. And like, I am not someone who I would consider to be like sort of a poetic writer. And when COVID hit, I was like writing and drawing pictures, like at night, like lighting a candle, like there's hope in this world. And that was my story of how I like got through it. But over and over again, little people, young adults, parents are dipping into, I'm back playing the guitar again. I'm finding myself rereading Harry Potter for the 8th time, whatever it might be. So there's really beautiful moments where people have found ways to connect in really meaningful ways, which keeps our spirit positive.
Yeah. Have you found?
Yeah, I would just add, I'm finding the same thing. And I've always talked about how, and I touched on it with my 5 minutes there, but that we need that downtime. We need the boredom. We need to sit with ourselves and reflect. And especially with teenagers, that self-reflection of how am I doing? What am I feeling? Like mucking around in that emotional content when we're just going, busy, 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 then we don't have that internal reflection to know what am I feeling? What do we need to do with this feeling? And then that makes anxiety decrease and moods improve. So.
All right, then let me hit you with my, really, let's face it, this whole thing is for me. I'm doing this entire conversation to counsel
We know,
me.
Dave.
I know in our family what shot through the roof, and we tried to limit it the first week, and then it's like, get your iPad, because I'm like, I ran out of things to do. So technology's going up, and I know for people that have teenagers, they're on their phones even more. You talk about boredom. What's your sense of technology? Either one, or we can both talk. But what, like, is it? Do I just need to feel guiltier, or what do I?
Yes, lots more guilt.
Good.
But no, technology, like I have such a love-hate relationship with technology because we know all the kids are homeschooling or doing a lot of meetings through Zoom, and parents are on the technology. And so it's just not eliminating technology, obviously, outside of school and work, but really limiting it. And so things like having tech-free dinners and no tech in the bedrooms and that sort of thing would be super important to kind of put it aside, reset, be mindful, be aware, be in the present, because we are on it significantly more than we were back in March.
I know I am.
So,
Yeah. And I would say let yourself feel a bit guilty as a parent, where you're like, that gut part of you is like, I'm pretty sure 10 hours of iPad time is too much. And I say that jokingly. Through COVID, we had a 6-hour limit a day, right? Because I'm like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
But when we intuitively know, I think this is too much, it's worth getting in a fight to say, I don't care if you scream for 3 hours. I don't care if you stomp around the house saying you're bored. You actually need to have a break from interacting with something that's not human. And so, like, little developing brains need time with other people in real space and time. And so as much as it's nice to connect online and we can do international talks and have grandparent dinners at Thanksgiving with someone who's back east, we actually have to interrupt some of that screen time as parents to jump in to be our kids' friend if they're not getting to be with their friends in real time the same way.
And I want to say too that the guilt, and we absolutely recognize that we're doing the best we can, right? And offering some grace of, okay, yes, I put my 5-year-old behind an iPad for an entire Saturday, and I'm mindful of that as a parent. But tomorrow, you know what, we're going to go on a hike, we're going to go be present, we're going to connect, but allowing some of that grace, because I know parents are overwhelmed and stressed and maybe working 3 jobs so there's just being kind, that self-compassion as parents through this, right? Because we're all trying to figure it out.
I want to talk about brains, but you mentioned boredom. And I know for myself, I'm not good at being bored, because if I get bored, I got a phone with the entire world on it, so I can just go. How important is boredom?
It's essential. And you're not bored when you're hyper-stimulating and hyper-arousing your nervous system. When you're flipping through, then you're not actually internalizing, you're not reflecting, you're not making space for yourself. What am I feeling again? And so that's not boredom.
And so, but boredom is a key. That's okay. If my kids are like, I'm bored, it's not my job.
It's essential. So boredom is where we allow ourselves, we dip into our right brain, where we naturally feel our emotions and have the ability to calm down our emotions. So this is where we get creative. So, which is a natural way where we all heal. And so without a little bit of boredom and a bit of space to start dipping into that right brain stuff, you never get a chance to really learn how to internalize coping strategies that will last your whole lifetime. It's essential. It's essential.
And parents always, they try to short circuit that process, and they'll be like, you're bored, here's a cardboard box, here's some felt markers, make a space station. But you want them to, as Tasha was saying, like, just pause and go, what is it? How can I activate my creativity, my imagination, my play? That stuff is very important for wellness, for overall wellness. So
getting out and outside is a start.
Yeah,
just being in nature is really soothing to our nervous system.
You mentioned brains.
Yes.
Because
brains.
when you said developing brains, in my head,
Yeah.
I automatically think a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. But what is an adolescent brain about?
Well, your brain is still developing.
Ish.
I'm just
It's
tried to
trying. It's trying. But what's going on in an adolescent brain that parents need to think about or know?
Oh, I could go on for,
Yeah.
I know both of us could, but
The nuts and bolts would be it's more emotional than ever before. So you're going to have more limbic activity. So you're going to see the highs and lows. I might not be able to control the words that come out towards you. It's harder when I get triggered to be empathetic to why you're part of the situation, right? I'm not really in a place always to really problem solve, but that's okay. That's I actually need to be messy. And I actually need you when I'm not in touch with that kind of prefrontal cortex that goes, take a deep breath. If you send that text, you're going to regret it tomorrow. That's where I need maybe that older, wiser, smarter person to come beside me and actually help me calm down so that I can maybe get another person's perspective and decide a different way that I want to approach problem solving.
And being a teenager, that's the most beautiful time in brain development to practice good, healthy neural connections and good, healthy habits, because it's under such reconstruction. And it's also the best time to unhook unhealthy patterns. So that's why when I get a 14-year-old in or a 16-year-old, I'm like, right on. Their brain is so neuroplastic, and we can really shift patterns and shift things that are going to get them in trouble as adults.
And is it okay? I'm assuming it is, because then they're going to say things. They're going to say things they're going to feel hurtful, or going to feel immature, or going to feel whatever. It seems to me then it's important for me to go, this is a developing brain, and my job is to help that developing brain, not fight it.
Yeah. I always think of parenting as provide consequences and provide structure, but always to teach and grow the brain rather than to punish or to shame or to cause pain. So now it's the perfect time to guide and yeah, like just really being mindful that, okay, impulse control, not quite online yet.
Right.
Okay, the capacity to resist urges, not quite online yet. And how do I teach and grow the brain rather than, punish it, I guess.
I feel like I do that with my kids, and they're younger, but if they're having a tantrum, I'm like, well, I talked to you about this, so it should be done. We shouldn't have to deal with this anymore. But then I remember, I'm going to do this for a while, and
You're
that's
going to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And even teenagers have temper tantrums.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling big, and we don't want to shove down emotions. We want big emotions.
What's your advice to parents if I have lost my job, or it is creating tension at home, or I'm realizing when they come for bottle pickups, I'm like, well, I've certainly been through enough wine in the last week. What's your advice to us with our feelings and having kids in the same house?
Be very aware that how you show up, you have to know that your kids are looking to everything that you do. Like if I'm a child, and that could be someone who's 25, who needs to reach to my big person for support, if it looks like you are not holding it together, I'm not going to actually come to you. So it's like if there's stuff that you're like, I'm not really processing this super well, ask for help, talk to somebody, go talk to your doctor, talk to a friend, make sense of your own, holy moly, I've got 7 bottles of wine every week that I'm putting out in recycling. This isn't good.
Right.
Right? Because I'm modeling when I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed, I'm reaching for something external to soothe my system. And substance abuse has really ticked upwards across the board through COVID with the adolescent population as well.
Is it true that kids I've heard that if I act like my problems are big, a kid will go, I can't come to them with problems because their problems are big. Is that what
That's the number one. Whenever I'm seeing an adolescent, I say, how come you're not bringing this to your mom? Like, go talk to your dad. He's there. He's available. And they say, I don't want to add to their plate. I don't want to bother them. And I'm like, yes, bother them. You should. You need to bother them. But they don't. They go, I'll take care of it. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to go after you.
Right.
But and I know you wouldn't be saying like, please don't bother me.
Right.
But they just pick up on it, and they will say they have enough on their plate. They're stressed out.
Wow. Okay, I have 1,000 questions, but
Yeah.
help me understand when we're dealing with stuff as best we can and we're going to get through it as best we can. When does it tip into, okay, there's behaviors here that are trouble. I need to be more aware of this. Either one jump in and the other one I'm sure will add.
Sure. I'm going to speak a little bit to a younger person.
Sure.
And so I'm thinking sort of late elementary, sort of junior high-ish, that what often you're hearing is a lot of, I'm asking for reassurance.
Right.
Like, are you sure are you sure that's not going to happen? And parents kind of get into the role often of sort of accommodating some of all the worries that come up, because I just have this kid that's sort of the super feeler, and this feels normal to do this. It's really hard to fall asleep at night. Lots of that, and even sometimes it's body feelings. I have a tummy that bugs me every Sunday night, or I'm saying I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. And I think what has been really tough with anxiety, often with anxiety, we actually want to face it, because it's our brain kind of having a false fear to something that shouldn't really hurt us,
Right.
like going to school, where people are generally pretty nice. But because you can do the online option, some people I'm letting anxiety be so bossy that I'm not doing the thing that actually would help my anxiety around going to school get smaller. And so there's a place where I think parents also kind of need to give kids a bit of a push and name what they're seeing.
What's your sense?
Well, and just to tag on to Tasha, the school, like grades decreasing. So I'm thinking teenager, grades 6 to 12, like just a shift in academics, a lot more withdrawal. So going into their bedroom a lot more, just shutting down, just like really picking up on, as Tasha said in her intro, the spidey senses. If they feel like something's going off, then it likely is. And so ask. So marks on the arm, marks, like cutting marks anywhere on the body, ankles included, just ask. Going to the bathroom after supper, like to be mindful of eating disorders and just seeing how long they're in the bathroom for, and asking, like really mucking around and what is going on. And
that feels
some of those.
scary though. Like, and I think as a dad,
Yeah, it
first of
does.
all, I would think, okay, I'm embarrassed, or it's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And does this mean I failed, or does this mean they're failing? Like, there's a lot of shame and guilt and all.
It's a hard conversation, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many clients that I've worked with where they're like, I started to see things last year. I was mindful of this, but I didn't say anything, because there's that fear that if I say something, it's going to make it worse, or I'm going to say the wrong thing, but then learn and come to someone like Tasha or I or anyone from the Lionheart to get that support and that education and those scripts and the how do I do this and what do I say differently, better, more of, less of.
Yeah.
The parents need that guidance and that coaching. And
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it is scary, but do it anyway, and you can do it. Like we believe in the capacity of parents
Right.
to do this work.
That's
Sure.
heartening, because I feel like it's easy for me to, because shame is such a player in all of this.
Yes.
It's such a fearful thing. Okay, we have to go, but
Yeah.
if somebody thinks, okay, I need help and I'm alone and I'm scared, where do they go? Who do they talk to? What do they do?
I would say step one is to step out of some of that shame you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because it keeps problems in isolation.
Yeah.
So I need to reach out and get some help. I think connecting with a family doctor is always the best place to start.
Sure.
They're super knowledgeable with mental health issues.
Yep. And they can lead. And is Google?
Yeah, I would say Google. I mean, referrals from friends, and that's why coming out from behind the shame and saying, hey, my daughter's struggling or my son's doing this thing, and talking to friends and family who, if they know of anyone. But Google, Psychology Today, doctors, of course, but asking around and coming out from behind the shame and getting the support.
So there's shame issues, which all of us, it's hard to have hard conversations. And if part of that hard conversation, if you're watching, is financial, that's where Lionheart helps. So don't feel like there's any reason to not reach, because there are people who are willing to help, whether it's a financial or just to say, how about this, or go there. You're both so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to think this through, but also for being out there and really making a difference. It's so great of both of you to come.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it was the best. If you need help, it's there, and it's going to be all right, and we'll find our way through one way or the other. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.